Thanks for joining us for another edition of The Small Business Show with Jim Fitzpatrick, exclusively on ASBN.com.
Hey everyone, Jim Fitzpatrick. Thanks so much for tuning in to another edition of The Small Business Show, exclusively right here at ASBN.com. You know, with a journey rooted in entrepreneurial passion and resilience, Scott Ellyson, who is the CEO and co-founder of East West Manufacturing, has led his company to become a trusted partner across different industries. Scott joins us today to discuss his path to success and how he got this incredible company started. So, Scott, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thanks, Jim. Nice to be here.
Sure. So for those companies, or should say for those viewers out there that are not as familiar with your company as we are here at the show, tell us a little bit about your company.
So we're a technology services company. Our focus is to help companies innovate and develop new products. We focus on products that we think make our lives better, and we define that as cleaner, safer, healthier, and smarter. And so we're in a lot of clean tech products, medical, industrial, robotics, things that get us pretty excited. And we help our customers develop these products. And then we have our own manufacturing facilities and our own relatively mature supply chain. We've got 9 plants around the world.
Wow.
And we help set up those products in our facilities so that we can be as competitive as possible in bringing those products into the market.
Wow. This sounds like an incredible task to take on. I'm sure there were probably other players in this space before you decided to start the business. Talk to us about that, because how does one start and have so many plants around the world and clients to support all of that?
Probably more just being naive than anything else. I started the company 23 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was 32 at the time, and I'd had experience. I was in management consulting, where I was working on kind of global manufacturing arbitrage. That's back in the 90s. I worked for a large med device company where I was setting up a high volume medical device manufacturing. And so I was looking around and recognizing that, you know, companies could benefit from leveraging manufacturing arbitrage globally. Mm-hmm. And many did not know how to do that. And I believe that regions can specialize and be experts in certain disciplines, whether it's plastics, metals. A lot of it tends to drive towards access to raw materials. Mm-hmm. And so in the early days, you know, there was a lot of shifting of manufacturing to various, you know, into Europe and into Asia. And now we're seeing a lot of shifting of supply chains. I mean, the supply chains are kind of a living, breathing machine, and they're always changing. They're constantly dynamic. And we're always trying to look out 4 or 5 years so that we can be ahead of the curve and offer our customers an advantage above and beyond what is typical in the industry.
Sure. So if you take me back to, you know, you're 32 years old and this is 23 years ago, what were those first stage clients like to win over? I mean, here you are going in basically with your briefcase, I guess, and saying, hey, I got a great idea. I got a better mousetrap here that I think I've built. And yet you've got no clients to support that, right?
I mean, very, very humble beginnings, Jim. There were East West was actually the second company I started. I started a company when I was 28, doing a similar function, and I learned then that we had no capital and no brand recognition whatsoever, and we had some success. And through that effort, I met a company that was in the air conditioning business called Diversitech. Mm-hmm. And Diversitech, you probably wouldn't know them, but they're the largest air conditioning parts distributor in North America.
Wow!
And I had joined their team when I was 30, and I built out a offshore manufacturing capability for them. Mm-hmm. And where we had all our success is Diversitech had domestic plants, and they had access through me to a kind of a global footprint. And when I would sit down with the Diversitech team and design a new product for the air conditioning market, we would look around and say, well, what's going to allow our product to be different, and then how can we set up a supply chain that leverages kind of all of the above, so that this product can be as successful as possible. And that model worked incredibly well for Diversitech. And we ended up setting up East West as a joint venture where I held half the company with my partner, and then Diversitech was also a shareholder.
Oh.
I wanted to bring them in because they had brand recognition.
Sure.
We had business, and so they really helped us accelerate things. And so they were a partner in the business. We grew the company north of 20% a year for the next 15 years.
Wow, that's fantastic.
And from 2001 to 2015, and it was all just doing exactly what we had done for Diversitech, meeting other customers, helping them innovate, helping them leverage a global supply chain. And then really it was when Bob Nardelli joined our board, it was 2016. The next 6 years, we grew the company at 45% a year.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Just incredible growth. And that was a combination of acquisitions.
Yeah.
We had done throughout North America, and then also continuing to do what we had been doing well before that, and helping customers grow their businesses.
Sure. Is Diversitech still a part of the company?
They're a major customer of ours, but my partner and I purchased we bought their equity in 2015, and that's what led to bringing in a new equity partner. So Diversitech's still a very important account for us. We do quite a bit in the air conditioning space today, but we're in many other industries, and they were critical, absolutely, to our success over the years.
That's fantastic. And are you looking for the people that can provide these products and build these products, or are you actually building the products? Do you act as kind of an agent or a broker, or are you actually building them?
We have 9 fully owned facilities globally, about 4,000 employees.
Oh my gosh.
And we have plants in the U.S. We have 3 in the U.S., Canada, 2 in Mexico, Costa Rica. We have a large facility campus, if you will, in Vietnam, China, of course, India. And so when we look at products, we can build an a la carte supply chain for our customers, depending on what their interests are. Do we want to have nearshore, onshore capabilities? And we have a unique model where we can help our customers get products off the ground very quickly using our domestic sites. And then if they want to drive cost out as the product scales, then we have the capability to move to lower cost geographies to support them.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So very unique way for you to start the business is actually with a company that you worked for and became a partner in. So that I think that's worth noting here, because you don't often hear about companies starting that way. Typically the company you're working for says, well, if that's what you want to do, well then go do it. And of course the relationship ends there. But in your case, you actually parlayed that relationship into starting your business, which is very, very interesting.
The CEO of Diversitech, it was a great mentor of mine, and I can tell you, the first time I brought this idea to him, he was not crazy about it. He didn't want us going anywhere.
Right.
And then he recognized that I'm a pretty free spirit person, and I was going to do it one way or the other. And he did a brilliant thing, honestly. He said, Scott, I don't want you leaving. So he says, instead of showing up to work tomorrow, I want you to come to my house, and I want you to bring the 5 things with you that are most important in setting up this company. And he goes, and I'll bring my 5, and we're going to sit at my dining room table, and we're going to see if we can make this work. And if we can get agreement on these 10 things, we'll let the lawyers figure out the rest, and we'll get a company off the ground.
Wow, that must
be what we did.
That had to be music to your ears as a young entrepreneur at that time, right? To know that you've got not just the backing, but you also have got a client now that you can use while you're on the road looking for more clients.
That's right.
Yeah,
and I was honest when we said we had very humble beginnings. I mean, the total invested capital in the company was just over $500,000. I had emptied out my home equity line as my other partner did.
Yep.
And we made a small profit our first year. I'm pretty sure we didn't pay ourselves the last month.
It's very typical, right? Yeah.
And then we became profitable every year after that.
Sure, sure. What advice do you have for entrepreneurs that are in a similar situation as you were 23 years ago, trying to struggle, make it work, as you said, empty out your piggy bank, so to speak, and put it all in? What advice would you have for those young entrepreneurs trying to make a go of it?
And there's lots of things I learned over the time. One is, everything takes longer and costs more than you expect, right? So you need to be prepared for that. And you need to, we were always really, whenever we were adding cost into the organization, we would never do it proactively. Meaning that we would always have a trigger point of new business or something that we had won that would justify us making that investment, whether it be in equipment or people. So if we wanted to get into injection molding, if you will, we wouldn't go out and buy a bunch of machines and then look for customers. We'd first find the customer and then buy the machines.
Okay. And
so we've done that when we got into electronics manufacturing, same thing. Found the customer, bought the equipment. And so that's helped us not get ahead of our skis.
Yeah.
And there's always that tension between the sales teams, the commercial teams, and the operating teams, where they win business, and then you've got to figure out how to make it, turn it into a deliver.
Sure.
And that's healthy. That's really healthy for an organization.
Sure. When you go to pitch a company in a scenario like that says, we've never built this product before, okay? But if you give us, the account, then we'll go ahead and buy the machines and we'll be able to deliver on it. That sounds to most people like, well, wait a minute, if you've never done it before, why am I going to sign the contract and then you're going to go buy the machine? You're going to have some ramp up time, maybe some challenges as you try to figure out how to build our widget. Was that not the case with some of the people, or?
Well, usually we had enough credibility, and so the way to think about it, I always say it's like baking a cake. We had all the machine, we had the blender, we had the oven, we had all the things. And so if you had a different cake, we
no
had
problem.
Other cakes that we had made that we could show you that says, hey, we still know how to make a cake. We just have not made your cake before.
Yeah.
And often we would have enough credibility with the customer where maybe we were doing a variety of products for them, and they had enough confidence in us that if we said, all right, we want to add injection molding now, can we get your support and take on these new programs from you to justify the investment, then usually that strong partnership would enable it.
Sure. It sounds to me like it would be very complex in terms of starting and opening up locations around the world for obvious reasons, language and contacts and what have you. Talk to us about that. Are there companies out there or individuals out there that help you with that process for those entrepreneurs out there that are into manufacturing? Because it would seem like, wow, you start to go outside the borders of the U.S. and what do we know about Vietnam or Asia or what have you, right?
When I first went to Vietnam, it was 2002, and we literally just showed up. And we went to Hanoi first, and you could feel it in the culture that they weren't ready yet. And so we flew down to Saigon, Ho Chi Minh, and very different. You saw street vendors trying to sell you things. You saw this kind of vibrant economy, and they had the yellow pages, Jim. The yellow pages like we remember.
Yeah.
And we were looking for a rubber supplier that could make rubber. We were doing quite a bit of rubber vibration pads. We make the grommets that hold utility lines.
Okay.
And we knew that rubber was available in Vietnam. And so we went to the yellow pages and we looked up rubber manufacturers, and we had a list of them. And then we had to find a taxi driver that could take us to the different factories. And we did so unannounced, intentionally.
So you're basically knocking on the door. Like,
exactly.
Who's Scott Ellyson and why are we talking to this guy?
We called the factory once we got, if it looked presentable, like a factory that we'd want to work with.
Right.
We called them immediately and asked if we could get a tour. And of course they'd say, well, send us the letter. We'll pick you up at the airport. And no, we're at your gate. And honestly, we have two suppliers today in Vietnam that we to this day that we had done business with, going back way to those early days. And so but it was painful in many respects. Setting up our own factory down there, we were early, and it was hard for us to find the talent we needed at the management level to run an organization. And so we had to bring in a lot of expats.
Wow.
Early on. And I felt like it was the United Nations, because we had folks from France, Philippines, China, of course, all running departments. But we would give them objectives where they would have to localize those positions over a period of time.
Sure.
So today, the vast majority of the leadership in our factory in Vietnam is local.
Yeah. Wow, that's fantastic. What a story. You're literally knocking on doors. I mean, there's probably a lot of business owners right now shaking their head going, I never would have thought he was about to say that. But this is how you start, right? You got to do what you got to do. So let me ask you this. I'm sure that over the last 23 years, especially in the last 10 years, you got a lot of knocks on your doors from private equity companies alike and other manufacturing companies to acquire you. Is that part of the game plan, or are you just saying, nope, we're hanging in here? Or?
No, we've done 2 recaps.
Okay.
So we did our first one in 2016. We brought in an equity partner and sold them a third of the business. I would call it family-friendly capital.
Okay. Yep.
I'm out of New York, and the thesis was we needed somebody that could help us with acquisitions.
Yeah.
My partner and I knew how to make products. We understood global supply chain. We had no idea how to manage debt,
right?
How to do M&A.
Sure.
And like I said, over the next 6 years, we grew at 45% a year. Astounding growth.
That's incredible.
And then we did another recap at the end of 21, and we sold 70% of the company. And this time it was to Michael Dell's firm, MSD.
Oh, wow.
So great outcome. They've been terrific partners of ours.
Yeah.
And now we're focused on kind of that next level of growth. And I don't know where we go from here, Jim. I mean, I don't know if we could, who knows?
Yeah.
But things are picking up. As I said earlier, supply chains are always evolving, always changing.
Sure.
Customers, there's a lot of interest today in shifting supply chains away from Asia, and China in particular. And so we see that as an opportunity.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I know if I asked you the question about COVID and how you made it through COVID, that's a whole nother show, right? But obviously you did, and you're running a successful operation, and probably a lot of lessons learned from that, right? And
yeah, those 22 and 23 were definitely the roughest years.
I bet. Yeah, but you made it through, right? And that's the good news. That's
very healthy now, and we're back to growing at those 20% plus rates that we were accustomed to.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, your story is a very inspirational one. I know a lot of founders and entrepreneurs and business owners that are listening are going to get a lot out of it. So much continued success to you, Scott Ellyson, CEO of East West Manufacturing. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. Very much appreciate it.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks for joining us for another edition of The Small Business Show with Jim Fitzpatrick, exclusively on ASBN.com.